I've shared a lot about the warrior mindset through the series of lessons and what it means to live as a warrior, to have this mindset, to develop it. And what I'd like to do in this lesson is summarize it into an understanding for you and give you tangible practices so that you can apply it in your daily life. Now, I've got my notes here so I can make sure I'm covering this completely and concisely to give you this understanding and these tools. So, first of all, living as a warrior has certain benefits. It helps you take control of your life, specifically to accept responsibility for your current life circumstances. And you do this by becoming conscious, specifically about becoming conscious of the mind's natural comfort seeking limitations. This is something that's very natural tendency for the mind. And warriors counter this natural tendency by moving toward the enemy. Now, I use the word enemy deliberately here because we're looking at this through the warrior lens. So I want to use warrior terms. But for context, enemy simply means something that's stressful. Okay. So warriors move toward the enemy. They move toward stress so that they can take responsibility for their current circumstances and work through them. Now, to move toward the enemy like this takes a shift in perception. You need to perceive how to deal with stressors and struggles in your life in a different way, with a different mindset. So you can do this by choosing consciously how you're going to work with this limiting tendency of the mind. So in other words, you're choosing consciously to move toward the enemy. So you need to know how to do that. Now, with anything, but particularly with mental training and for dealing with the mind, you need to have a goal. And I've emphasized that the goal for this training is to use your attention impeccably, specifically to live as an impeccable warrior. So when you think about this word impeccable, it simply means flawlessly. So you're using your attention flawlessly so that you can live as a flawless warrior, a flawless human being. It's important to know a goal like that is impossible to achieve because you're on a continuum of learning throughout your life and you never have an end point that you're going to reach. But you're shooting for that. It gives you a direction. Now, when you're using your attention more flawlessly like this, more impeccably, then it it frees your attention from, you might say, a mental prison of your own making. So when you can use your attention more freely, focusing it on the task that needs attention, then that leads to a true expression of freedom. And this is what we want in our lives. We want to experience more freedom. Now, the warrior mindset isn't just a collection of nice ideas. They integrate into how you're using your attention. They align and integrate so that you can use your attention in this more impeccable way. And specifically, the warrior mindset and how you're using your attention is going to integrate very tangibly into the three phases of risk taking. So that's what I want to do here in this lesson. I want to show you how you can use your attention impeccably to prepare for risks, to transition, which is making choices to take risks, and then acting those risks out. So that's what we're going to investigate here in this lesson. So as I've said, living as an impeccable warrior isn't just a nice idea or a catchphrase. It's strategic in how you're using your attention. So the warrior approach to life means that you're in sync with how life is unfolding and how these stressful situations are unfolding for you. We define warrior this way. Warriors are people who have made a conscious choice to live their lives courageously as an opportunity to explore their inner and outer worlds and leave the world a better place because they have lived. So this journey toward living as an impeccable warrior, it requires becoming conscious. You need to make a conscious choice to move contrary to the natural comfort-seeking tendencies of the mind, as I've said. So it takes two things. It takes awareness, like you need to be aware when this is happening, and then it takes courage to act in the direction of those stressors, which is different than what the comfort-seeking mind would want to do. That mind wants you to move toward comfort, back in your comfort zone. So when you're moving in this contrary way, then you're shifting attention toward the stressor so that you can learn. Like you don't learn in your comfort zone. You learn by engaging something that's uncomfortable, something that's stressful, something unknown, processing yourself through that so you can basically deal with higher levels of stress. Like you expand your comfort zone in that way. That's what learning is. Now, the concept of fighting is important for warriors. Uh, Fighting, again, is a warrior word, you might say. And for context, that simply means that you're exerting effort. You're exerting effort when you're going into the stress zone, processing yourself through it so that you can learn. Okay. Now, there are two different ways that you can fight. You can fight against reality. You can fight against the event, or you can fight with it. Now, fighting against reality, fighting against a certain circumstance in your life is sometimes necessary. Combat soldiers do this all the time. There are boundaries toward surviving are crossed, like their enemy want to kill them. So there are certain boundaries there that they have to protect. So they fight against the enemy. Now, in general life, civilian life, fighting against all the different stressful circumstances that you have is limiting. So it's better to take the approach of fighting with the situations, with how they're unfolding. This is more a collaborative approach. And so here you're fighting with the stressors that naturally come up in your life, the struggles, so that you can learn. And like I said, through that process, you're expanding your comfort zone for the kinds of stressful situations that you can remain calm and grounded in. So fighting with your current circumstances is a more overall helpful approach because you're fighting with these natural stressors so that you can learn. It also determines the kind of life that you leave behind after you die. And here we're tying into the last part of that definition. Warriors, the way they're fighting in this exploration of the external and internal worlds, they leave the world a better place because they have lived. So if you're fighting with the circumstances of your life, then you're learning and growing, and through that process, in this collaborative way, you're adding value to other people, and that, by definition, leaves the world a better place because you have lived. I'm sure the concept of freedom is important to you, but how do you understand being free? You can imagine that you have constraints put upon you by other people, by life, or by society. Well, let's explore this with three different types of freedom. You can think of having freedom from these constraints, but is this realistic? Like, you're continually going to have different kinds of constraints on you from others and from life circumstances. So pursuing freedom from these constraints isn't really freedom. So let's look at see if we can improve on this with a second type of freedom. Freedom to do what's important to you. So here you want to do what's important to you, but you're still going to have constraints. Those life constraints don't go away. So freedom to do what's important to you isn't really true freedom. So we need to improve on this idea. So let's look at number 3. The third type of freedom is the freedom to be who you authentically are. And here, the only constraints are yourself. Like it's your habituated patterns and behaviors that are been developed over a lifetime. So this is where mental training comes in. Mental training can give you tools for dealing with these constraints, for working through them. So this freedom to be is it gives you the ability to work with the natural constraints that life and your own self impose on you. In other words, freedom to be allows you to work within the natural constraints that you experience in life and still be free. So this is a freedom that's worth pursuing. Now, the Warrior's Way approach to mental training gives you this freedom to be. It does this because the training creates what I call a free mind. And a free mind simply means that attention can flow freely as the situation changes to the chosen task. Our tendency is to have attention locked in a mental prison of our own making. And what mental training does is it breaks down that prison. It opens the door, so to speak, so that attention can flow out of the mind through the body and into the particular task that you're engaged in. So this is a freedom that is truly worth pursuing. Anything is a risk that's outside of your comfort zone. Living life means that you're taking risks, means that you're engaging in stress. And this allows learning to happen. Learning and growth is a natural phenomena of life. And taking risks aligns you with how life is. Now, there are 3 phases for taking risks. There's preparation, transition, where you make a decision, and then action. So let's look at each of these. 1, preparation. In preparation, you prepare your attention. The main way you do this is by developing an internal locus of control. 2, transition, decision. In transition, you make a choice. As I've said, this choice needs to be conscious. If it's unconscious, then you'll react to the mind's natural comfort-seeking tendencies. You need to consciously choose to move in the direction of stress. Here, you're choosing to move toward stress so you can learn and grow. This choice allows you to move toward what's important to you for creating a meaningful life. 3, action. In action, you engage the world so you can learn. Here, you need to flow with the natural unfolding of life. You learn by integrating into the larger world. This means you integrate into mutually beneficial relationships. In action, you develop an external locus of trust so you can be open to the learning process. Let's look at each of these phases individually. To prepare your attention, you develop an internal locus of control. In other words, to be able to control your attention. And you do this by aligning with the reality of how life is. Once you're aligned, then you can direct your attention toward being awake and alert. The phrase that guides preparation is, be awake and alert as a warrior in enemy territory. It's helpful to look to the world to understand reality, to understand how the world works so you can align with it. And breathing is a process that is of the world. It's something that you do and something that all living creatures do. And so it can give us insights into the reality of the world. Breathing consists of three aspects. One, both and. You accept both the inhale and exhale. This helps you prepare. Two, either or. You commit to either the inhale or the exhale. This helps you transition to commit to your choice for how you use your attention. Three, neither nor. Once in action, you neither reject the inhale nor grasp for the exhale. This helps you process stress so you can learn and grow. You align with the reality of life by utilizing and aligning with these aspects of breathing. So, for example, in mental training or in life, you have both stress and comfort, or stress meaning activity and comfort meaning rest. And you accept that these are natural parts of life. So you need both stress and comfort. And so you don't fight against this, you fight with it so that you can be effective in how you're engaging rest and how you're engaging activity. Now, the other two aspects of breathing, the either or and neither nor, they're part of transition and action. And I'll go into detail in these in the next sections. But I want to give a little bit of insight into them here because the breathing process itself is pointing in that direction. I want to give you a little insight into it here. You either commit to stress or comfort. This is the transition part of risk-taking. Commitment shifts your attention completely to the chosen task. Finally, you neither reject stress nor grasp for comfort. This is the action part of risk-taking. This helps you process the stress when you're engaged in action. Aligning with reality develops this internal locus of control, and it allows you to direct your attention toward being awake and alert. Now, you use your two minds for doing this. The unmoved mind of awareness keeps you awake. I covered this in lesson number 16. The flexible, agile mind of attention keeps you alert. I covered this in lesson number 17. Now, it's impossible to stay awake all the time because attention will continually tend to get lost in the mind, lost in thinking. So waking up continually over and over again throughout your day is going to be an important practice. And this essentially is the warrior master skill. It's the master skill because it's the main one that you're doing on an ongoing basis so that you can use your attention impeccably. And so essentially you're noticing and redirecting your attention continually throughout the day. So being awake and alert and waking up is what develops this internal locus of control. This is what helps you prepare for the risks you want to take. If you can't prepare your attention this way, then you're not going to be very effective in the decisions that you make for the risks you want to take or how you're executing them. Transitioning is making a choice. You're choosing to move from preparation to action. And you need to make this choice consciously. You're consciously choosing to move contrary to the mind's natural comfort-seeking tendencies. And this helps you focus your attention on what's truly important to you. The phrase that guides transition is, pay attention like it's your last battle on earth. It's helpful to look to climbing, which is an activity in how the world is constructed, for understanding how to transition, how to make these decisions. Climbing gives a very nice structure for understanding risks, and so we can use the climbing metaphor for understanding this phase of the risk-taking process. Climbing consists of three aspects. One, goals. Goals give you direction for your efforts. 2, motivation. Motivation moves you through stress toward your goals. 3, work. Work is done for its own sake so you can enjoy it and learn. This structure helps because it helps you identify what's important for you for creating a life that matters, a life that's meaningful for you. So you set these goals on what's important to you, and then what stands between you, your current state, your current day, and the achievement of that goal is stress. And so you're pointing your attention in the direction of the stress that stands between you and your goal so that you can work through it and achieve something that's important to you. And you're relaxing into that stress so that you can process it, learn from it, and enjoy it as best you can. Now, valuing work is critical here. Work is something that makes up the majority of your life. And if you're aligning with work, doing it for its own sake, then you're allowing a learning to occur and you can enjoy it more. These values help you make risk choices that focus your attention on what's important to you. First, you know that work will be stressful. You value the stress by honoring it as a learning opportunity. Second, you use death to advise you on choosing what to work on. Death advises you about the limited time you have here. You choose what's important to you, focus your attention on. Third, you're grateful for what you have. You're grateful for both the comforts and the stressors. Honoring stress, the concept of death being your advisor, and gratitude are what shift your perception in how you do this work. You're making choices that move you in the direction of a life that matters to you. So this is how using your attention in the transition phase of risk-taking helps lead you toward being an impeccable warrior, for using your attention impeccably. Action is where you learn. You're integrating into a broader understanding of who you are. And what's required here is developing an external locus of trust. The phrase that guides action is, trust how life unfolds. Again, it's helpful to look to the world, to understand how we can align with reality during the action phase of the risk-taking process. So we're going to look at the river metaphor. The river consists of 3 aspects. 1, water. Water is the energy in the system. That energy flows along the path of least resistance. 2, river channel. The river channel adapts to the energy of the water. It allows the energy of the water to do its work, modifying the river channel as it flows. 3, intention. Gravity's steady pull creates an intention for movement. This intention gives the energy of the water a direction. So first, you're applying energy to take risks. Second, you're allowing yourself to be eroded, which simply means you're adaptable so you can learn. And third, you're setting an intention to focus your attention in the direction of the stress. So what's important for flowing with the river, so to speak, is to be in an in-between state. So the tendency is going to be to rush through the stress to get it over with, or to stall out in procrastination. Rather, what you want is to have this neither nor mindset, this in-between mindset. You're neither rushing nor stalling. This helps you relax into the stress, work with it, process yourself through it so you can learn. And you're following the path of least resistance through the stress in this way, doing that work toward your goal. There are certain qualities that help you develop this external locus of trust. These are the 3 H's: humility, honesty, humor. Humility diminishes the negative tendencies of your ego. Honesty helps you work with reality. Humor creates a playful aspect so you willingly engage stress. Curiosity. Curiosity shifts attention toward stress. A balance of patience and persistence. The patience-persistence balance allows 2 things to happen. First, it allows time for you to integrate what you're learning. Second, it helps you stay engaged to sustain your effort so you can learn. Life is messy. There's constantly constraints and things impinging on your life experience. So you're essentially finding the middle way through this mess. This is what this in-between mindset does, this trusting mindset. So developing this external locus of trust with these qualities that I've outlined helps you take action when you're taking these risks. These warrior concepts integrate into the 3 phases of risk-taking. 1. They help you prepare your attention by developing an internal locus of control. This helps you be awake and alert as a warrior in enemy territory. 2. They help you transition so you make choices about what's important to focus on. This helps you pay attention like it's your last battle on earth. 3. They help you take action by developing an external locus of trust. This helps you trust how life unfolds. Awareness is the most important quality here. You're aware of the mind's natural comfort-seeking motivation tendency. So you're in enemy territory, in stressful situations. Don't be surprised by that. Expect that you're going to have stressors in your life, and then make a conscious choice to move in the direction of those stressors. And that's going to help you use your attention more impeccably, which, as you know by now, moves you in the direction of your goal of living as an impeccable warrior. You will take risks every day, whether you like it or not. So accept that and then use these tools to take these risks so that you can learn. Risk-taking includes 3 phases: preparation, transition, decision, and action. In preparation, you need to have an internal locus of control. This helps you be awake and alert as a warrior in enemy territory. 2. In transition, decision, you need to focus on what's important to you. You do this by paying attention like it's your last battle on earth. 3. In action, you develop an external locus of trust. This helps you trust how life unfolds. Preparation, transition, and action are going to mix and blend, throughout the moments of your day. So use rituals and practices that you do in the morning and throughout your day so that you can take these risks and use your attention more impeccably. Here's the drill. Daily morning rituals to prepare. Gratitude ritual. First thing you do when you wake up is express gratitude. Express gratitude for specific comforts you have and stressors you'll experience today. Meditation. Do a morning meditation sometime before you go to work. Begin with 30 seconds of intentional breathing. This heightens your energy and presence. Next, do 10 minutes of non-dual meditation. Simply notice what comes into awareness. Don't do anything. Just notice. Finally, set an intention so you direct your attention toward how you'll use it today. Set it this way. My intention is to be awake and alert as a warrior in enemy territory. Daily practices to transition and take action. Choose to value work. You will encounter stress today. This means work needs to be done. Make a conscious choice to do the work for its own sake. This will help you find joy in it. Choose to value work by paying attention like it's your last battle on earth. Take action. You'll need to learn from the work you do. Using these tools will give you situational awareness and help you trust how life unfolds. Wake up. Your attention will continually get lost in thought. This means your attention has become distracted. Notice this distraction and redirect attention to your intention. This is the warrior master skill. Remember, the intention you set was to be awake and alert. Wake up continually throughout the day by noticing and redirecting attention. Imagine you're in enemy territory. This shifts attention out of the mind and into the body and the senses. It directs your attention toward what's actually occurring. Expect the unexpected. Deliberately look for what is unexpected. What seems out of place? Death as advisor. Imagine that death is your constant companion. You'll choose multiple times about what to focus on. Turn to death to advise you about how to spend your day. This will heighten making choices about what's truly important to you. Keep these values in awareness. Humility. Notice defensive behaviors. Rather, find ways to stay engaged with the stressor that made you defensive. Honesty. Be honest with yourself and others. That's the only way to truly work through your challenges. Humor. Find ways to bring humor and play into your day. Smile a bit more. Curiosity. Notice getting frustrated and shift attention to curiosity. This shifts attention in the direction of stress and learning. Patience, persistence, balance. Be patient so you allow time to learn. Be persistent so you stay in the game and don't give up. That's a lot to practice. What I recommend is always doing the morning rituals. And then for the daily practices, pick one and just focus on it. That's going to help you learn that one skill better. And then over time, as you alternate between practicing all of them, they'll integrate into a new way of being, a new behavior for how you're engaging in your stressful days. So how you live will change. It's changing because you're intentionally working with using your attention and focusing it differently. This is really what it means to work in the direction of using your attention more impeccably. And that, as you know, can lead in the direction of living as an impeccable warrior. So enjoy your learning journey.